What made you a champion?
My mind and my heart.
Your first Ironman win, New Zealand, and obviously you
Mm-hmm.
you won that thing couple of 2000 and 2001, so you had some
Mm-hmm.
good success there.
Yeah.
Winning your first Ironman, how cool was that?
It was always the goal. And that was 1999 was the year I resigned from teaching. So I was a full-time teacher, and I actually went to Ironman New Zealand in 1999. And, I had a really good race, but it was kind of flat. Like I'd been on my trainer, my CompuTrainer. I hadn't been on the roads. And, I stepped aside from that race and I said, if you really want to compete, you got to be biking outside. Like you can't compete against the best women in the world. So it was in 1999. I stepped, away from teaching, and then I decided that I would, really throw both, all of me into it.
Yeah.
And then I teamed up with Lance Watson as my coach, and we went to Australia for the winter in the year 2000. And I went kicking and screaming because I'm a complete homebody and I love my little home environment, even if it is minus 20 and snowing. And off I went to Australia and worked with our team for 6 weeks. And I remember training day in and day out with the team, and I'd never been in that atmosphere. And I just kind of said, this is how you win.
Yes.
I might not win, but I've done everything to win. So if I don't win, that's life. But I've not left one stone unturned. And so I got into the race, and I had to completely visualize the entire race. And visualization and mental preparation was always a huge part of my game. I had to make up for my lack of talent, so I had to really think about it. And I remember, I knew the competition, and one of them was Shawn Welsh, who was an amazing athlete. And I visualized that I would catch her at 40 kilometers in the run. And, I visualized the entire race, and then it turned out she didn't start the marathon. And I ended up going into the lead at 20K in the run. And I was like, what do I do now? I didn't visualize having to run 22 kilometers by myself.
With nobody to chase.
There was no one to chase. It was so boring. And so anyways, it was pretty incredible to cross that finish line first.
And then when you look at Ironman World Championships, you ninth, sixth, fifth, fourth, and then finally 2006 on the podium. That had to be unbelievable to be on the podium at the World Championship.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite place to race, probably the best race course for me. My challenge always was staying healthy. That was probably one of the races where I was always in the worst health. I would say 50% of the time I was on antibiotics. And I think that really speaks to the difference between healthy and fit. So I was super fit, of course. It was a world championships.
Right.
And as soon as you get into that, you cross that line between healthy and fit. I was really, really fit, but my health would take the tumble because of the immune system being compromised. It only takes dropping a couple of pounds, and then all of a sudden your immune system kind of gets a bit compromised. You catch everything. I was often quite sick when I was racing. There was one time in 2004 where I was really, really sick, and I was able to mentally get on top of it and have a really great performance and come in fourth.
Yeah.
I'd say that was the race of my life because I was so unbelievably sick. But there was lots of years I couldn't turn it around from being sick, and it ended up that, I would have a subpar performance. But it would have been neat to race it 100% healthy.
For most of your career, did you hide the fact that you had cystic fibrosis?
Early on, for sure. I mean, definitely when I went to the Pan American Games and I was really, really sick, no one knew I had CF. And, in the back of my head, I just always felt that if I started talking about CF, then that was going to be the focus. And that from then on, if I didn't have a great race, it would be that asterisk, Lisa had, a chest infection, or, Lisa's a pretty good athlete, but she has CF. And I just didn't want it to be that way. And so I wanted to sort of make my mark almost as an athlete. And then the CF could come into play after that, so that, no one was going to feel sorry for me. No one was going to put me in the special category. I was just going to be Lisa racing. And it's like, oh, wow, she has CF. And at that stage, I felt like I could actually do something with it, which ultimately meant giving hope to families with CF. And once I felt like I could fulfill that role properly, that's when it became a bit more public.
Would you have ever thought of yourself as a professional athlete and a successful professional athlete?
Not once. And even now, I'm so grateful. Like I lived my career. I just didn't go and race. Like I really lived it. And, there was curveballs and there were difficulties and there's a lot of stories through the years. It wasn't just, a checklist of wins and losses or podiums, etc.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm being completely honest. When my track coach said I didn't, I wasn't talented, I said, I love being an athlete. And he said, you're not an athlete. You're active, but you're certainly not an athlete. And, going to see a doctor about my flat feet when I was a kid and him saying, you're never going to run. Like these feet are terrible. And, we went and got orthotics. I was brought up with a huge faith. And I just really believed that this was sort of the path I was given. And I didn't know the reason for it. But I thought, well, you've been given your flat feet, got a little bit of talent, you got cystic fibrosis. There's a reason you're going in these races. And it might not be to win. It might just be to be. And so it took a lot of that pressure off and I could just go race because no matter how the race ended up, it was a miracle I was there.
Right.
And racing the best women in the world. I mean, how many people get to say that they got to race the best women in the world? And I'm so lucky that I did.
Always an honor to get to chat with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.